These are probably the most famous verses in Ecclesiastes, even if you've never read Ecclesiastes before, even if you've never heard of Ecclesiastes before. These verses you are probably familiar with. You've probably heard them somewhere at some time. Chapter 3, beginning in verse 1, the writer says this: "For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to harvest. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build up. A time to cry and a time to laugh. A time to grieve and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to turn away. A time to search and a time to quit searching. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be quiet and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace." What do people really get for all their hard work? I have seen the burden God has placed on us all, yet God has made everything beautiful for its own time. He has planted eternity in the human heart, but even so, people cannot see the whole scope of God's work from beginning to end. So I concluded, there is nothing better than to be happy and enjoy ourselves as long as we can. And people should eat and drink and enjoy the fruits of their labor, for these are gifts from God. And I know that whatever God does is final. Nothing can be added to it or taken from it. God's purpose is that people should fear him. What is happening now has happened before, and what will happen in the future has happened before, because God makes the same things happen over and over again. So I've shared this quote probably every week in the course of this series from C.S. Lewis, where he writes, "Human history is the long, terrible story of man trying to find something other than God which will make him happy." And I've said each time I've shared that quote that really is Ecclesiastes in a nutshell. Ecclesiastes is this bold and honest look at the ways we try to find happiness and meaning in life apart from God. And I've said each week that the subtitle to Ecclesiastes could easily be "The Search," because the writer of Ecclesiastes is searching. He's on the hunt. He begins, in fact, many of his paragraphs by saying, "I have seen, I have tested, I have discovered," meaning that he's not some ivory tower scholar or theorist. He's slugging his way through life on the ground, desperately looking for something to make him feel alive, something that will satisfy, just like us. And what he concludes over and over again is that everything and everyone in this world will fail you in some way and at some point. Relying on an achievement or an experience or a person or a dream, basically anything under the sun, to be the ultimate source of meaning and purpose and identity is like building a house on the sand. He says it's like chasing after the wind. Something that you can never catch, that you chase your entire lives, but you can never catch. Well, we've looked in the last few weeks at how he tried to find life apart from God in pleasure. We've looked at how he's tried to find life apart from God in wisdom, in accomplishments, and how all of these avenues left him high and dry. Well, these verses, the ones I just read, he talks about time, meticulously talks about time. But what he's ultimately getting at is the issue of control. ultimately. These verses are both the most popular and, in my opinion, the most misunderstood verses in all of Ecclesiastes. If you've ever heard these verses before, you may have heard them at a funeral. They're often read as a way of bringing comfort to family members. And while I think there is a sense of comfort in these verses when it comes to that, these verses are actually intended to show us the haunting, uncontrollable nature of time. There is a professor at Boston College, philosophy professor at Boston College, who's probably in his mid-80s now, by the name of Peter Kraft. And he wrote this: "Time is a river that takes from us everything it gives us. Is there progress? Does time go anywhere? Are we in a story? Not if observation under the sun tells us the truth about time. For such observation under the sun sees only cycles. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted. What gain has the worker from his toil? Under the sun," he says, "there is no good news. Progress is a myth." Well, the writer to Ecclesiastes wants us to see that life under the sun is untamable. It's uncontrollable. Seasons come and seasons go. All of us live and all of us die. Life is an unpredictable mixture of good times and bad times, good days and bad days, peaks and valleys. Time passes so quickly. The sun rises and the sun sets every 24 hours.